I think that the question of, what would kids do if we were inviting them to ask for new rights is very dear to my heart. I think that we see today that the world is indeed not going in the right direction. The fantastic WHO, UNICEF, Lancet reports highlight that, their life expectancy is at risk. They will see a decline in life expectancy because of climate change, because of pollution, because of obesity, because of all sorts of addictions that are man-made addictions. There are company-made addictions. And so, we have to help them to care for themselves, care for others, and to care for the planet. And in order to do that, we have to listen to what they really want to see in terms of change. And that's why we have to invite them to have new rights. But we have to understand, what is the history of rights? Look at it, several of you talk about global citizenship. None of us is a global citizen. We are at best local citizens, but children are not considered to be citizens in most countries. They cannot participate directly into the decision-making that affect them. And that's, in a way, somewhat contradictory to the UN declarations of children's rights, but that's the way it's happening in most places. And so the history of citizenship starts, of course, in Athens. But Athens created the notion of citizenship. But if you look at who were citizens, there were no women, there were no poor, there were no migrants, there were no children, and there were no slaves. And this notion of citizenship has been reinvented later on during the Enlightenment. It went from the city level in Athens to the national level during the Enlightenment. But you know what? The very same people were still not considered citizens. Okay? The Human Rights Declaration was actually a men's rights declaration. Okay? And so, again, the poor, the migrants, the women and the children and the slaves were still out of the equations of citizenship. And so today we talk about global citizenship, but I think we have to make sure that it's, citizenship for everyone, not just, the wealthy, rich, white men, like in the previous two creations of rights. And we have to be able to co-construct, those new rights. And typically children are always out of the equations. Only very recently we started to talk about children's rights. And even then, we didn't wrote those rights with them. We granted them those rights. Okay, adults decided that, children may deserve this right or that right. And I think that, the first time it was discussed in the international arena was in 1924. So we are reaching 100th anniversary of that moment. And so what can we do in the 3 years to come to create a global movement where indeed children's rights becomes part of global citizenship, and actually we invent together with them the very notion of global citizens, because none of us is a global citizen. None of us directly can contribute to the global decisions, even though all the problems that we face now, all the major problems are global problems. That, companies can be multinational, but the children's rights movement or the global citizen movement is not yet, a truly empowering movement happening at all scale. So I think we have to be able to invent this together. And I'm so glad that, there is different people from different continents representing some diversity of perspective that can come together and maybe be able to work together with international organizations on this. Because many international organizations, including OECD, that Andres represents today, and many others, have this at heart. And yet, when you look at them, they don't have enough connection with what's happening on the ground. And the people that are on the ground don't have enough connections with, among themselves to be able to have a global impact. And I think what we can build is what's called a middle ground, a place where, the upper ground institutions and the underground activists can come together to together have a true impact on these very questions. This is, for me, an artist that speaks beautifully about children's rights by doing collage, and this is just one of his many collages. He's so famous on Instagram, you probably have seen many of his other pictures. But, he shows us the image of perfectly happy kids next to perfectly, the most horrible pictures that you can think of human suffering and of children suffering. And I think, his pictures have moved me so much that I think we need indeed to go deep into our emotions and have this compassion and this calm passion that we were discussing. And I think that we have to create a movement where such images are shared, but also produced and commented and acted upon. And I think that this can work by creating. We are discussing this with Ugo in these very days. We can offer this picture to children and to adults and invite them to reflect on why is it so moving. What is it that they would want to do to avoid these terrible things happening, and how do they relate to these things? How can they produce images of what moves them? This collage technique is so easy. Very young ones can master it and can start producing their own art. So it's not only that they should be consuming the art productions of Ugo or others, but they could start creating their own and creating their own campaign. And I know, Kiran has been very good at inviting children to do similar things. And so I think we can start doing these sorts of things. And if I have to end with one quote, I would end with, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. In Imagine, it says, I may be a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I'm a dreamer that, the world can change, but I feel that I'm not the only one either. And actually, what we would love to do is to be able to maybe build a sort of a GPS of dreams where every one of us can know where we are on dream landscape and start joining with others that share the same dreams. And we can then start to act on those dreams and build them together. And then I think indeed, that's also Saint-Exupéry was saying something like this, that if you don't want to the reality to eat your dreams, you have to have dreams eat the reality, and so you have to work on your dreams. And that's the sort of things that I think we can start doing together. And Dominique invited us for the next Children's Right Day. Maybe between now and then we can do something great. And in 2022, when we celebrate the Republic of Children, maybe we can start building it for real.